Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Muhammad. This is Heavy Metal FPL. In this video, I'm going to talk about my final preparations for game week 18. Now, some headlines just to provide context before I go and talk about my team. First of all, Gordon is a doubt versus Luton away because he was taken off injured in Newcastle's cup match versus Chelsea. He had a bad knock, so he's a doubt for their next match. We're quite unsure if he's going to start then or not. Next thing is that we've got Haaland also being a doubt for game week 19. So he's off this week for sure because Man City have a blank game week, but he's also a doubt for game week 19. We're not sure yet. There's conflicting reports. Um, Guardiola said that he hasn't trained yet, but then we have a report from Fabrizio Romano, a top reporter, saying that he has started training. So we're unsure. I'm unsure what to believe right there. I'm not sure if he's going to be back or not. There was a photo of him training, and then that was taken off by Man City. So not sure what to believe yet. If you want my personal opinion, I think that he will be back for game week 19, but I'm about like 80% sure, not 100% sure just yet, and I'll have to wait on the news for that as we come up to that game week. Now, last but not least, there is an early deadline for game week 18 that will be today at 10:30 p.m. That's Dubai time for me, but just in your case, it's still earlier than usual. Last week we had it a little bit earlier. This time it's even earlier because we have earlier than last week because it's on Thursday late evening. And that starts off with Brighton versus Crystal Palace. Very, very early. So that's in about 12 hours from now, from the airing of this video. So here's how my team looks like going into game week 18. I'm not 100% done with it yet, but this is just how it looks like right now. I've already made one transfer because I thought it was 100% correct. And that is that Sanchez to Leno. So Sanchez was a long-term injury and he was confirmed to be a long-term injury. So I took him off and I brought in Leno from Fulham. Hopefully this will break my goalkeeper curse, but we'll have to see how that goes. Hopefully I don't bring that curse onto Leno, and hopefully I can get my first return from the goalkeeper position this season. You will be the first to know about it when that finally happens. That's one weakness addressed already. Now, for this game week, Saliba, I think, is a weakness because he plays against Liverpool away, but otherwise I have no problems with him, long-term especially. There is Trippier, who is really, really good, but just has been out of form lately. In their last match, in Newcastle's last match against Chelsea, he was the reason why Newcastle conceded a goal to Chelsea, and he also missed his penalty, so he's looked a bit short on confidence lately, and he's looked to be a bit tired. We're unsure about what's going on with him, but he hasn't looked as good as he usually does. Maybe a bit low on confidence, but he has two good fixtures coming up, one against Luton away, and then the next one is at home versus Nottingham Forest. I would ideally like to keep him for those two. And if I was to sell him, it wouldn't be for his form or for his lack of potential, but it would just be to free up funds. I'll get into that a little bit later. I've also got two potential issues that could come down the line. Cole Palmer and Huang are both on 4 yellow cards. So if they get a fifth one, then they'll be suspended for one match. Now, that is all the way until the game week 20 deadline. So if they manage to go through the next two matches without getting a fifth yellow card, they should be okay because the threshold for getting suspended will be 10 yellow cards after the game week 20 deadline. One major concern for me is Martinelli, and he's been a weakness for me all season. I just haven't had the chance to get rid of him just yet. So Martinelli, I mean, it's safe to say at this point that he was a mistake for me. The only reason why I brought him in was because Madison was injured at one point and I wanted to replace him with someone, and Martinelli was just coming back from injury and he had a good fixture at home versus Burnley. That turned out to be a big mistake. I should have gotten Bowen instead. That would have saved me from a lot of issues and saved me from having Martinelli in my team doing absolutely nothing this entire time, but just getting one return, which I think was just one odd return out of a lot of different game weeks. So 7.7 million is not necessarily cheap, and I could sell him to make up some funds which I could use to upgrade my team elsewhere. That's one thing. Now, for now, I've got the captaincy on Watkins. I think it's the best decision and I will probably be sticking with it. Another option for me is Salah at home to Arsenal. Salah, it's hard to go against him in any game week, but I just think Watkins is a better shout for this one. One of the main reasons why I got Watkins anyway, I sold Haaland for him, was because of this fixture against Sheffield United at home. So it'll be hard to justify not captaining him this game week. Now, I've got Alvarez on my bench because he's blanking this week, and Alvarez in general has been a weakness for my team. I'm not going to address it this game week just yet because of Martinelli. And I think I will be addressing him later. And if I do, I will probably be trying to upgrade him to Haaland. That will have to come down the line, maybe in game week 19 or in game week 20. And I think that will be driving my transfer decisions for game week 18 because I need to spare up the funds. I've got 5.8 million in the bank. And to upgrade Alvarez to Haaland, I need 7 million exactly. So I need to spare 1.2 million. That'll either come from Martinelli, being downgraded, or it'll come from Trippier being downgraded. So I need 1.2 million extra to be able to upgrade Alvarez because I don't like upgrading Watkins to Haaland. Because I just think that Watkins is a season-long pick. I would rather do Alvarez to Haaland. So we'll see how I can get to that point with the potential transfers, which I'll go into next. So on to my transfer options. I've already made my first one. So my second one, given that I don't have a free transfer, would be for a -4. Now, Martinelli, who's been an issue in my team for quite a long time. I'm just curious, by the way, do any of you still have Martinelli in your team? Because sometimes I just feel like he's only a problem for me and I'm the only one in FPL who has this guy in my team. But he's definitely a problem. I do want to sell him. Now, Gordon was my top choice, but unfortunately he is an injury doubt. So that threw a wrench in my plans because he was such a perfect transfer for me to make. But now that he's an injury doubt and some people are actually looking at selling him, it's hard for me to justify bringing him in and just having that risk of a player who might not start in the next game. So Martinelli to Gordon was perfect, but now it's looking a bit shaky and a bit risky. There is Almiron for the same price in the same team, but it doesn't look that appealing to me because it just seems like Almiron is more of a settler option, more of an option that I would go for as kind of a second-hand one, and it's not something I'll be very, very convinced of just because Gordon is in the same team and he's just the much better FPL asset based on the evidence that we have. So Almiron would be more of one for me to try to force myself into that Newcastle attack, but not as good as Gordon for sure in terms of points and in terms of his potential points as well as far as the data shows. Now there is Bowen at 7.8 million. He's just 0.1 million more expensive than Martinelli, and I really like him as a long-term pick. And even for this game week, he has Man United and he will be playing at home, and I think there is potential in that fixture. I think West Ham are going to give Man United a hard time, and it'll just make that match more fun to watch. I think West Ham will do good, and there is potential for them to really hurt Man U there. Man U, who are currently struggling and continue to struggle as they have been all this season. So Bowen, very, very good. The only problem with this transfer is that Bowen is at 7.8 million. And so this would not give me the funds that I need to upgrade Alvarez to Haaland down the line. So I would have to look at another route to do that. But I like Bowen as a long-term pick, and I like long-term picks in general just because you don't have to worry about them later unless they get injured. And that is what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to minimize the issues that I might have down the line with short-term punts or whatnot. I don't have to think about them later. So the less issues I'll have down the line, the better. Now there's also Richarlison at 6.7 million. He's looked good recently. He's slowly coming back to form. He scored 3 goals in his last 2 matches for Tottenham. And so Martinelli to Richarlison is a good one, probably for a lot of people, just not for me because it doesn't give me the funds that I need to upgrade to Haaland down the line from Alvarez. That's the only reason why I'm not looking so heavily at him. So I think between these 4 options, it's either Gordon, who is definitely a risk. Like if someone just came now and told me that Gordon is 100% sure to start and, you know, they were a credible source, then I would definitely just go from Martinelli to Gordon because it would just ease my transfer decisions in the future. But given that that's not the case, I have to look at either rolling the transfer and just sticking with Martinelli for one more week and hoping that I don't get issues down the line, like Cole Palmer getting a fifth yellow card or Hwang getting a fifth yellow card, or I don't know, injury to some other players, which is very, very common, by the way, and things are changing in the FPL landscape very, very fast. So it's either rolling the transfer, just keeping Martinelli in my team for one more week, or Martinelli to Bowen and just not think about Haaland for now and just having to deal with it later. Hopefully down the line we'll get more clarity on whether he starts or not in game week 19. So I'm leaning towards Martinelli to Bowen now, but I'll have to see how things go. I'm just on the edge. There's so many different computations and permutations for this, so it's very hard for me to just be 100% behind the decision. But those are my options for now. If you have an opinion on this or you think I've missed out on something, let me know in the comment box below. So another option for me, let's say I do Martinelli to Bowen this week, right? Then that would mean I don't have the funds for Alvarez to Haaland. So what would I have to do down the line? I would have to downgrade someone like Trippier so I can get those funds. So the reason Trippier is my choice is not because of his form or his potential or anything. He has looked a bit shaky, but that's not necessarily a reason why I would sell him, because I just think he has so much potential to bounce back and he's such a good FPL asset. But the main reason why I would think to sell him is just because Haaland is on the other side of that transfer and I don't want to be without Haaland. That's the only reason, right? Now, the alternatives to selling Trippier are what? Selling Salah, or selling Son to free up the funds, or selling Watkins. And I don't like either of those. I want to keep Salah and Son until they are away for AFCON and AFC duty in game week 21. And I definitely think that Watkins is a season-long pick. So all three of those guys are my routes to free up funds in my team. And I don't like either of them. That's why I think Trippier, just the fact that there is some shakiness in his form, and I already have a Newcastle defender in my team in the form of Lascelles. If I wanted to free up funds, Trippier might be my best route to doing so, and I would be looking at that as a potential one, especially if I go from Martinelli to Bowen this week, because then I'll need the funds. Anyways, I think I repeated myself like 10 times on that. But my potential transfers for replacements for Trippier down the line, this would be in game week 19 or more ideally in game week 20. I don't like transferring Trippier out in game week 19 because he's going to have Nottingham Forest at home. And Nottingham Forest have been struggling lately and Newcastle are amazing at home. So that's also another caveat to this transfer, which makes it very hard for me to justify. And that's what makes this whole transfer decision very complicated this week. But what I would have to do is risk, just go without Trippier for game week 19. Very, very hard. And I would have to sell him for someone like Konza in Aston Villa. I think he's a good option. And it's just funny how things change so fast in FPL. Because just last week, it was Pau Torres that was the Aston Villa pick in defense. Now it's Konza because Pau Torres is injured. So, and things are continuing to change because those fixtures are piling up and these players have been playing so much and there's just potential for injury every single game week. But anyways, Konza for Aston Villa is a good shout for their defense if you trust it. I don't necessarily trust clean sheets that much in general, but I'm just looking at the best downgrade option if I wanted to free up funds. And I think these guys are just the best of the bunch. And also, like, at 4.5 million, it would mean that I have an extra million in the bank that I could use elsewhere. And it's good to just have a little bit of buffer for later down the line, just so I'm not on the edge when it comes to any transfer that comes down the line. So 4.5 million for Konza. There's also Colwill for Chelsea and their defense. Now, I don't trust Chelsea's defense whatsoever. I've not had good experiences with their defense whatsoever, right? Whether it's Chilwell, whether it's James, whether it's their goalie, they always somehow seem to disappoint me. But Colwill is possibly, like, if I wanted to opt for a Chelsea defender to free up funds, then I'll possibly go for him. He's looked to be back in their lineup and they have a lot of injuries elsewhere in their defense, which means that he's more likely to start. So those are my two defensive options, which I could potentially down the line go for if I downgrade Trippier. And that wraps it up for this video, guys. If you think I've missed something with my team, or if you think I'm not doing the right thing, make sure to let me know in the comment box below. If you like this video and you like what I do, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I wish you all the best for the upcoming game week, and hopefully those green arrows will keep coming. Until the next game week, I will see you all later.